Wrong person. No, I got the loudest voice in the world.
Yes. It's not bad. I've heard that.
I don't have to do anything else before recording, do I? Evening all, to the Finance and General Purposes Committee tonight, Monday, 22nd September. General salaries. And apologies, absence.
And apologies from Councillor O'Riordan and Councillor Brennan.
Yes.
And Councillor Henderson as well.
Count for the three that missing. Declarations of interest. Has anyone got anything to declare or declare at an appropriate time? Thank you. Questions? No, not tonight. Right. First up, to approve an accurate record of minutes of the meeting of Finance and General Purpose Committee held on 16th of June. Has anyone got any issues with that? Or all happy?
Happy.
That seems to be happy. I'll quickly sign those. Okay. First up is the action tracker. This one felt document to read. Do you go for that or shall I go on?
I can mention, so the Heritage Open Day, 13th of September, was a big success in this building. I never got out of my office because people just kept coming in all the time. I think the same for Sally in the parlour. It was more people than we thought, and they were very interested. Pleased to be able to look upstairs and see everything and hear various people talk. So good partnership exercise.
Can I just
Sorry.
can I just say on the Heritage Day, Peter and I did, I think 170 people walked up the stairs to come and see the upstairs of Grove House. And you're right, we didn't move. We in fact we had to pause everything for about 5 minutes, didn't we, at lunchtime, just to give ourselves a breather. But it was an extremely well brought together day with everybody's partnership working. But in particular, huge thank you to Lisa for her work and for the team's work here. And for Lisa's mum, who came and gave up her day as well to help us sell private house stock on the day. It was a really good day and one that I think they're probably going to ask to do again. But definitely from the feedback that I've had from people that were in the town on Saturday at the market, they were all talking about it still a week later.
That's good. And I was pleased that yourself, Councillor Holly, gave up the time. That was very good of you to do that.
And to
Glad it was such a good
Jackie for being the headmistress.
I was going to say Jackie played
Yeah.
blind, didn't she? Jackie just played a blinder.
Councillor Holly?
I did put a bit in the Gazette. It's on the website. Whether it'll be actually in the paper this week, because it wasn't in the paper last week, so people might look out for that. Have to part with £1.80 there.
Okay, the second item will be reported on in the rest of the agenda. Carbon assessment report. That will cover that later. So we move on to the compliance reports, and we have Katie Williams to give us an update on those reports, please.
Thank you, Sharon. Good evening, members. So there, as you can see, there's an update to a few of the policies and an update on the carbon and energy action plan, as mentioned. So first up, an update on the Grove House building works, which are still ongoing. So further to writing this report, we had a meeting with our consultant this afternoon. She is working with a heritage expert who she has sourced, and we're hopeful that we'll be in a position to give a more positive update by next meeting. But work is still ongoing towards that. In the last meeting, we said that an application had been made for premises licence, which has now been granted. An application has been made for a wedding venue licence, which will enable us to hold ceremonies here. The marriage or ceremony room has now been redecorated. Does look good in there. We have replaced the lighting for dinner ball spotlights and installed a chandelier, which was kindly donated by Councillor Tamara. And then there's a reference to a request which is in a later report. I'm going to hand over to Lisa for 3.5, which has kind of already been covered.
Yeah, so obviously Paul just mentioned the Heritage Day, so yeah, we had 175 people through the door and it was a huge success, so thank you to all involved.
So projects and procurement, so the items that are mentioned in 4.1 have really come from the fire risk assessment, which was completed in 2024. And so there's been several items that have come to attention which will need to be addressed in the coming months or year, but that's all going to be part of budget conversations in the next few weeks and months. So more information on that to follow. And the health and safety, we've had 4 health and safety audits, which were completed in August by our health and safety consultant. Overall, the reports are good and we're doing okay. There's no massive areas of concern. There's no huge red flags. So there are items that need attention, but there's nothing of huge concern at this stage. CCTV, so this was an item that was discussed in the grounds meeting in January. So we're just looking for some scope on this item from members, please. Onto policy updates. So the health and safety policy has undergone its annual review. There are a couple of minor changes which are referenced in the report, and if approved at this meeting, then this will be referred up to full council. So the information security policy has been updated, which is an updated version of quite an outdated policy, to make sure that we're aligned with current standards. And also the data protection policy, which is also attached. Again, an updated version of quite an outdated policy, just to bring us up to date with kind of what's going on and meet requirements. So onto the carbon and energy reports and assessments. So the report has now been received. This was something I think we were waiting for in June. So it has now been received and reviewed. I have summarised this into a new action plan, which will be for officers to work on or alongside as kind of business as usual. So the proposal is that we disband the environmental working group in favour of a more regular report through this committee, and that work will be taken on as part of business as usual, and as opposed to doing it as a standalone project. But the items that were recommended in the report have been brought in so that we can kind of make sure that considerations are reflective of that as well.
I'll give you a little pause there. So I think that's all. I think we've gone through most of the actual report itself. obviously been very busy, just a tad. The room was looking good, by the way, for the weddings. And obviously thank you to the council for your donation. Has anyone got any questions immediately on these points coming through before we go on to the actual reviews of procedures? So, Councillor James?
Yeah, just a quick query on the fire risk assessment. You said it was done in 2024. I appreciate you've not been with the council very long. Is it normal for it to take over a year for fire risk assessment actions to come forward and to start being addressed? Did our fire risk assessment actually pass? Because it seems an awful long time in a health and safety land that I work in. A year nearly is an awful long time for those actions to be addressed.
We've been working on actions. We certainly discussed it as soon as it came and addressed key actions straight away. It's too long for it to come to committee, but the fact it's taken that long to get here doesn't take that long for officers to be actioning the actions within it.
I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, can I just add, so some of these actions, the priority actions were all actioned immediately or very quickly straight after. So it's in its annual review that these things that are maybe recommendations for the near future have come up, and the time span that was recommended is a little bit longer, so they weren't addressed straight away, but it's now appropriate for us to start looking at those and planning ahead.
Thank you. I just find it difficult to understand why we as councillors are only just finding out about the fire risk assessment and the intensity of what needs to be done nearly a year on. It needs to come to us as committee members sooner, because if something had happened, we would not have been cited on it. And the fact we had a big event here last weekend makes me question whether we actually did have the appropriate risk assessments in place for that event.
Councillor Pauling?
Thanks, Chair. So on the CCTV section, if I'm reading the right part, it says it would be helpful if members could provide an indication on the scope and extent of the review. Like that's from a meeting back in January. I can't quite remember, if I'm honest, what we were discussing. I think it was to cover all of the new things that we were doing, and or potentially the park. It was to review are our cameras up to scratch, because we had some vandalism in certain areas and then we didn't catch things potentially, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah. So the scope of it, I can't remember what we were suggesting, but I think it was just to make sure that it covers the areas that we are paying to maintain, so that if necessary, legal actions and other things can kind of be taken to look after our property. I think that was the scope.
Okay, got one. I think you got
Yeah, having raised this as the query in the first place, it was my own query.
Oh,
So
there we go.
I'll fill you in on it. But
Thanks.
basically, yeah, it was. I think the original consideration was concerned around the new pergola for Priory, and making sure that we don't have skateboarders and things like that, from what Councillor Brennan had brought up. We had CCTV coverage of it, and then we started questioning on the CCTV on the NHS land that we needed a new lease for, and that opened up a broader scope to say, well, what else do we need to have sick? Because there was a lot of things that were being vandalised at the time. We had the fire obviously at Bennett's and things like that. So we started to say, well, we need to look at the whole estate here and just look at the scope for the main assets that we've got, and the clock house and everything. There's things we spend a lot of money on and being able to do. We need to make sure we've got coverage on our assets and making sure that if something does happen, God forbid, at least we've got the proof to give to the police to investigate it and do what we need to do. So that's what was borne out of it. So the scope was whatever. It broadened.
Perfect.
Does the clock house come to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other comments on the scope? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Under the energy and carbon recommendation, item 7, Priory House, I think I'm possibly reassured elsewhere. It does say that opportunities for internal wall insulation improvements to the heating system should be factored into these works, I'd have thought it must be factored into these works since we're doing quite a lot, certainly in Priory House.
It's worth saying, I think, so that you'd expect that to happen, assuming that we can do, put no restrictions on it.
Assuming we give permission to do it.
Yeah, good permission to do it.
And there was a little bit of a funny one here where the council first declared a climate emergency. Presumably it's we recognised that there was a climate emergency. It sounds as though we had some grand revelation that as a council we actually declared a climate emergency. That's just the wording, I think. Have we got as far as tree planting yet?
No, I don't think so.
That's on the next page, I think. I was just going to say that
Central and biodiversity, I think I cut it short on it. I'll quickly pick up on number 7. And please, Katie.
when you get to the tree planting, I'll pop up again.
Sorry.
So, number 7, the environmental and biodiversity. Cut me off before you got to that one.
This point here in the report.
Yeah, you just haven't covered it.
Okay. So once this report appendix, can't find the appendix number, appendix 4, was received. So it was gone through in quite some detail. The colour coding on the front, quite difficult to kind of decipher initially, which is why we've produced it in another format, which makes a little bit more sense to us anyway. So some of these items are complete, done, or in progress. Others are not practical, either for cost or archaeological reasons. And so we've kind of gone through the recommendations that have been made and summarise this into a more basic report. This is something that will become more of a live document that can be worked on.
Are you talking about the corporate?
Am I talking about the wrong thing?
Yes, all right.
Okay.
Okay, don't worry.
No, I'm talking about this report.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
So
Okay, that's fine. I'm getting confused, sorry.
You're right, yes.
Sorry.
So I cut off on the page earlier.
No,
So some of the actions will be considered as part of larger projects that are underway in other committees and areas, such as the solar panels. Example, the mess room at Creasy Park, that's a project that's already underway in under that service. And then there'll be other things like the replacement of vans, that's for the monitoring of mileage and things like that. There's also work on replacements of vans, and considerations will be made moving forwards as part of each decision. Does that cover?
Okay, Councillor Horrocks, is that sort of
Yes, thank you. I'll come back on tree planting.
just on trees, I've seen.
I was just going to say that on the Grounds and Environmental Services Committee, we did have a brief discussion on the possibility of what we might do with that land, the busway, which we're acquiring from Luton Borough Council, but somewhere where we could be planting trees. But a report's going to come back, I think, in November as to what we may be thinking about, and it'd be an opportunity for colleagues to make some sort of comment about what they might like to see on that particular piece of land. I was just sort of wondering if, I don't know if I'm extending this too far, but when we look at Cottage Bottom and the new cemetery thing, I was just wondering whether there was any opportunity whatsoever, and it might be too expensive, to have a small wind turbine to perhaps deal with the electricity for whatever facility we have there.
Something unusual.
We'll make a note. I mean, the other question would be whether planners would allow us to put one up there,
Yeah, of course.
given the sensitivity of the site. But anything that towards this income for long term would be welcome.
Going back to point on 5.9 on the CCTV, was there anyone else thinking of any other areas that should be covered? Or you're happy with the, what's I've done?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
It's fine, okay, first.
So if I recall rightly, we were looking at the scope was what you've said,
Yeah.
but we were looking also at identifying other areas owned by the town council that may benefit from.
Yeah.
So it was looking at all areas across our land and ownership so that everything got considered,
Yeah.
obviously cost implications. But that's how I recall it. It wasn't just the specific sites that had
No.
CCTV now, it was opening it up.
Anything that-
It was an opportunity to review everything.
Yeah, okay, it's basically what the officers are looking to go by.
So that's the point I wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
We're looking at the entire scope of
Yeah.
things, plans,
Yeah.
asset that we have to make sure that we've actually covered everything. And in terms of just thinking about things that's happened, like for example in Benny Track where the CCTV have no coverage, how can we have a more fuller report to sort of show us the scope and how we can cover those areas in a sense where you have vandalism and there's no CCTV to cover it? What can this report show, sort of detail? And I think having that fuller overview will help make a better decision.
Katie, on the policy,
Sorry, I was just going to say on the point there as well. I think, we really need to make a list of our most important assets, the expensive ones that we've really invested a lot of money in.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that really, we need to make sure we've definitely got the CCTV coverage for. And others as well, but it would certainly help if we had that as a part of the report to identify, the top 10 assets that we need to.
I think it would be a case of, as you say, how far you can go depending on
Yeah.
the cost at the end of that.
But then you can help make a decision if you've got a list balance.
Sorry, Councillor Holly?
Just wondering, at the end, it said sort of no issues to be considered, but working party being dissolved, I'd thought there might be more work that the working party could do. I know it was possibly originally set up to establish where we could reduce emissions and so on, but this is sort of slightly wider now, and we're still considering matters to do with carbon reduction. And I was just wondering of the validity of, say, of dissolving the working party at this stage.
I think the idea going forward was to look at basically on each project to take that into account at the time of the project.
Mm.
So you wouldn't need a separate party to keep reviewing those as a whole. It'd be part of the question and consideration for each project. So we didn't need a separate group to continue that. So John, yeah.
Chairman, as the working party would have been, in order to have a working party, surely would have been agreed by the committee in the first place. Should it be for the committee to agree to dissolve it?
I think that's one of the things.
Thanks for the question, isn't it?
That it should be a vote to.
Yeah, that's why it's down as a recommendation for the committee.
Okay.
I think it was the working group that made the recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah, so 1.4 agreed to disband the environmental working group. Would be a vote.
Thank you, Chair. So I agree with Councillor Hollick in terms of the idea that there is still several ideas to be considered in terms of achieving energy and environmental and biodiversity goals. I mean, it's somewhere within our comprehensive agenda today that there are quite a lot of actions that are still on the to be considered bracket. It would be useful, I think, to continue to have the environmental working group, if only to consider those options. It's that, or they'll be placed amongst council meetings over the next few years, but I worry that we'd lose track of them if we were to dot it across in that way. I'm quite keen to see the momentum keep going on that.
Okay, Councillor Tomorrow.
I just to sort of answer that question in terms of the recommendation, as I understand it, rather than having a continuous working group on this specific issue, you deal with those recommendations or those issue that we think we want to continue within a particular report. So for example, most of our stuff now, we have a tracker. And the tracker will be able to tell us exactly what we have with this issue. So in essence, we're not going to lose track of exactly what needs to be dealt with. So we need to consider this issue as part of a tracker. And that is the easiest way to deal with it.
Does that make sense? Any other views on that particular item? Do you want to do a vote on that now, or we got that fresh in our minds? So all those in, get my words right. All those in favour of disbanding the environmental working group, raise your hands.
Walkers to continue.
And those against? 1, 2. And those abstaining? 1. It's carried to disband the working group. Okay. Right. Now we've got a number of policies here. I'll ask Katie to go through each policy in turn to see if you can highlight any key points on those if you could.
The two very minor changes to the health and safety policy. One is reference to a job title which changed since this was written, and the other is on the way that accidents and incidents are reported. This was previously only done by paper form. We are now using an online system as well, and so there's reference to that.
Okay. Any questions on that particular policy?
Nope.
Okay, in which case can we have a, okay, we'll vote on them as well. Can we vote on to recommend to full council to approve the updated health and safety policy?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. There's no one against, was there? No abstentions? Okay, the next policy.
So the next one is the information security policy. So this is a updated version of an existing policy. Cyber security standards have changed significantly since the original policy was written, and so the changes were so vast that actually starting on a fresh sheet of paper was the only way really to get it up to date. This is a very proactive and operational framework that's ready for officers to use, whereas the previous version was quite reactive. And so this is more in line with where we kind of need to be looking.
Okay. Any questions on that policy?
No.
All those in favour to approve the updated policy? Thank you. Those against? Treat them. Madam Mayor to sign the policy. Thank you. Okay, and the next one, please.
The data protection policy, again, an updated version of an existing policy. This updated version provides the council with a comprehensive and formal policy to meet the broader legal requirements under GDPR regulations.
Any questions? All those in favour of the to approve the updated policy? No. Next one is the back to the carbon and energy action plan. Data protection. Oh, sorry, which one was that? It's just under data protections. Agree to adopt, now we're agreeing to adopt the carbon energy action plan of item 7.6. he says. Go back to me list.
Page 24.
So yeah, so 7.6 is the proposed. It's proposed that the new plan is adopted in favour of the existing plan, which is unachievable. Do we have any further questions on the carbon injection plan? We do.
Thank you, Chair. So I won't be supporting this one. While I agree that the 2030 target was definitely too ambitious in terms of our financial and practical abilities at the time, I dislike the idea of going from a goal that's too ambitious to one that isn't really. There's no in the actual wording it says when financial and practical or operational considerations meet with the conditions. I dislike the idea of no longer having a target, even if officers were to go away and say another 20% by 2030 or something like that could be targeted at, whatever it may be, whatever's practical. I noticed in the energy report we received from the person we commissioned that he said that we should have 5-year targets that have considered actions within them rather than woolly targets that aren't really, like, it's vague, it's blurred. So I won't be supporting it.
Opinions?
The report mentioned 2040, didn't it? Which does seem an awful long time to delay what was a 2030 target.
So one of the issues I think that the report highlighted was because of buildings like Grove House and Priory House, you're very limited into what you can do to bring you to a carbon neutral. And one of the things that was that the target was going to be, we will be carbon neutral. That was just not achievable. So it's then having to bring about a target which was achievable. Maybe it sounds like it may have to be a little bit more specific for the councillor, and how the other councillors feel on that point.
Just for example, thank you, Joe. There it does mention in the report, for example, a couple of considerations for 2030, for 2035, for 2040 that we could be looking to in terms of the heating system at Grove Corner and all sorts of things. I'm not saying we need to be aiming for 2030 total decarbonisation. I agree with the practical and financial considerations. I'm just saying I would like there to be cast, planned targets that we're actually shooting for something tangible.
Thank you, Chair. I totally understand what Councillor is saying, but I'm just thinking sometimes we put what I would describe as unnecessary pressure on unrealistic mandate on things. You give a date knowing that you own a building that is an heritage building. There's parameters in terms of what you can do to this building. If you decide that you want to put, let's say, solar panel on this building, for example, it'll be so difficult because the planning process is what they will allow in the first place. There's so much restrictions in the kind of building that we are the main building like Priory House, like Grove House, but also the report detail, continue to give us things like tree planting. So we've not totally said we are not going to continue to do those things that are recommended, but the issue of saying you would be at a certain date, realistically, we just won't be able to meet those dates. Is it realistic to continue to do the work, but not pin yourself to a particular date? That's the thing I think we need to consider carefully. It's ambitious, it sounds good, but is it realistic and is it factual? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Tamara, just to indicate that I'm speaking about what's in the report that we commissioned in terms of practical actions we can take that won't have architectural barriers and are theoretically possible within cost. We may not want to do all of them in the same timescale that is proposed, but I am saying that we do have actions that we could consider and we could put targets to.
That's very good. Councillor Colley?
Hi there. I'm kind of generally in agreement with with my fellow councillor across the room. There seems to be targets that have been suggested. 4% may be achievable in energy. Is it energy reductions? And it does say quite clearly in the report we commissioned that targets should be set no greater than 5-year intervals. I agree. It needs to be clear what we're trying to achieve with an energy saving policy. If we're going to have an environmental or energy saving policy, we need to have targets. Otherwise, what's the point in having it? It's just, yeah, it needs to be more succinct.
Okay, well, we can take those comments on board. My action is to put it to the vote to agree to adopt the carbon and energy action plan at item 7.6. All those in favour? All those against? Carried 2 against. And those abstaining? I'm abstaining.
So would the room accept? I think the general feeling in the room is that you want us to do the actions in the report. The disagreement is how ambitious we're being about the target about whether to seem to be happy with taking away 2030 because the report says it's unrealistic, but not having any target also seems unreasonable given there are dates in the report. So member could propose an alternate motion now to accept the report, provided that we introduce a target of 2035, which would seem to be consistent with government, or 2040. Because I'm second guessing, but I don't think you want to leave the meeting having no action plan, because that seems to kind of contradict what you actually want.
So thank you, Chair. My preference would, rather than declaring that we can be carbon neutral in 2040, which was to a large extent dependent on factors beyond the council's personal control, I would much prefer that we go away with a set of actions that we can control. So if we say we will aim to achieve this by 2030, this by 2035, this by 2040, rather than saying we will be carbon neutral by 2040, which again, we aren't in complete control of, I would like to have a set of actions that we can control and we will do, or we will aim to do. And if we miss it by a year, we miss it by 2 years or what have you, then we're working against a set of targets that the council agrees to.
Does the report not give that though?
It does, sorry, it does give that, but it doesn't, the changing of the wording that we're talking about, to me, it doesn't say that it's committing to that report. Maybe I've missed that.
Yeah. Katie, have you got any feedback on that from the report perspective? Dates in there?
I guess what I'm perhaps hearing is that the more specific date-driven targets is what members would like to see. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's what.
That might be a piece of work that I'd need to go away and do. I can't do that.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
But that's something that.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I think that's the sort of thing. Put it on the tracker. These are the dates. This is what we'll achieve. Then we know what we're going to achieve.
It could be something that I bring consistently.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to do that back.
Bring that back to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so that will go away and we'll have some dates inserted into that plan. Okay. So the revised section 6. That was councillor and Bill, wasn't it? Actually, so sorry.
7.7.
7.7.
Yeah.
Right, so part of the corporate plan was, it's proposed the corporate plan is revised to CP6 to continue reducing Dunstable Town Council carbon and energy footprint by seeking opportunities to implement recommendations from the council's energy and carbon action plan when financially and operational practical. So this is switching from basically going to be carbon neutral in the future. Are we happy to revise that actual action plan, or do you want that wording looked at again? Well,
Did you want to go, Paul?
I was just going to suggest that we defer that decision for
Okay,
next week
yeah.
as well, once you get the action tracker, and then you'll be able to make a sensible decision. So leave it as it is
okay.
for 3 months, and then we'll review it again.
Super. Okay, so we've done the. Okay, thank you very much, Katie. So, you're hard one then. All right, moving on to finance report. So Lisa, if you could update us on our finances.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So you've all received the finance report that provides detail on the budgetary position of the revenue budget as at 31st of August, and as well the council's reserves at the 31st of August. Just to run through the recommendations. So as mentioned, to note the revenue budget position, currently forecasting as at the end of August at a £94,000 underspend in this financial year. That largely relates to the pay award being agreed already for this financial year, which is quite early compared to previous years, together with some vacancies that we had early on in the year, maternity leave, etc. That's accounted for like 75,000 of that 94,000 forecasted underspend. Obviously, it's still very early in the year, uncertainties, but at this stage, that is what we're forecasting on all known predictions. Then just moving on to earmarked reserves, so they're provided within the appendices to this report. Then to note current investments, item 5 of the report. So interest has fallen slightly with our investments, and we continue to largely use the CCLA account for the majority of our funds. It's an instant access, and although it's fallen slightly, we obviously are cash flowing the Priory housework, so we invest and reinvest as often as possible. We've just had the second half of the precept in the bank, so as soon as we receive that, we put that straight in the investment account to earn as much interest as possible. We got that just early in September. And then the just to note, for members to note and confirm current direct debit, so that's provided annually to this committee. Just the direct debits are live as it stands in our bank account. Then to note the pay awards, that was also updated to personnel subcommittee on the 11th of September. That, as mentioned, that was agreed at 3.2% for all spinal column points. So we actioned that in the August pay, so everyone was backdated for the 1st of April, and the new spinal column points kicked in from then. And then lastly, officers are asking for approval to release approximately £3,000 from the forecasted revenue underspend mentioned within the corporate services area for the purchase of furniture for the ceremony and registrar rooms at Grove House. So obviously normally we wouldn't ask, we don't normally discuss revenue budgets up and downs. We obviously, as officers and managers, we do manage them. And the bottom line, then we give you this summary and other reports to other committees. But as this underspend is largely due to salary savings, it's not directly related to Grove House furniture. It's only right that we ask members that you are happy for us to do that. The reason that we want to spend that money is obviously, as Katie's report mentioned, we have now finished the refurbishment of the ceremony room. We're waiting for the marriage licence. We want to advertise that room, kitted out, ready to go as far and wide as possible, so we can maximise on bookings as soon as possible. So that would just allow us to do that and furnish it correctly so that it looks the part.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Jones.
Just a couple of points on the direct debits. We're still paying for a coffee machine for Priory House quarterly. Is that because we couldn't come out of the contract for it, and so we had no choice but to continue it?
Exactly that.
So is that being used elsewhere? Have we been able to move it to benefit from it, or the work with other business on them?
I don't think it's being used actually, but the shop, it's the one in the shop that we had to lease, because we own the one in the tea rooms, I believe. So obviously, as soon as Priory House shop is open, I think they've used it at a couple of the events, but unfortunately, it's just one of those things.
Okay, and then just on the marriage room does look fantastic. It's lovely to see it decorated and the curtains up and everything again. I'm still hugely concerned about the aesthetics of this building from the outside. You know, I'm a bride, I'm getting out of my car, it's the biggest day of my life, and I'm going to arrive to a building that does not look up to scratch from the outside. How quickly are we talking about our first weddings? Because I don't think, personally, I'd be happy with the outside of the building. It doesn't give a good flavour of your big day, of your big wedding day.
They're in a scaffold.
Exactly, exactly. And I just like, and which door are we going to be using? Obviously, we can't use that door down there, which is where the old weddings used to come in from. They, you know, this main door was never open for weddings. It was always that door down there. And I'm presuming when we do the weddings, we then lose that meeting space area because you can't keep the table and chairs in there. So that's big loss, not having that meeting space as well. So, you know, I'm just
During the wedding only,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
But that's a hell of a lot of commitment to moving furniture backwards and forwards for weddings. Don't know. That's a commitment of moving that furniture every time there's a wedding potentially.
I mean, the plan is that we use that space as part of the wedding, and we can add on, when the registrars came to look around the building before we put the licence in, their idea for that space outside of the wedding room was that we could extend the numbers available for weddings. So we hire that as a second room, but you can also have people seated in that area, so you can improve on capacity, potentially put a screen up at a later stage with a video so that they can watch the wedding but still feel part of it. So we wanted to be able to give that as an additional space. I understand what you mean about the space, but it would always be that, unfortunately, with the rooms layout that they are, you have to be able to walk through that room. Also, when they visited, they did request that, obviously the registrar used to be where Morton solicitors have now taken on. We did suggest the room directly next to the marriage room, a smaller room. However, they much preferred using the front space room for their meeting room, and they suggested that we frost the glass in between this reception and that the guests would, once the other entrance is open and the building is back to full capacity, that we use that for the guests, and the bride or whoever's getting married comes through that door, frosted glass, and then they go in to do their initial meeting. So they will kind of be using a lot more of the space than what happened when South Bedfordshire District Council were running the weddings, but that we would cost that accordingly, space by space.
And what about the external fabrication of the building? Because it just doesn't lend itself to a wedding venue at the moment. It really doesn't.
Unfortunately, we're sort of stuck with what the front looks like, and that, as you know, for years to come, there is a big problem at the frontage of this building. We're just hoping that people will see past that, and until we can go out to advertise, we just don't know. At this stage, the back of the building looks relatively okay. Obviously, it needs a bit of refreshing until we get the big scope done by the planners and the consultants. We can't.
I'll be honest, I've got concerns. I think this building is much of a can of worms as Priory House is. We don't know yet We don't have the permissions, and I can see why we want to get the weddings back in and do it, but I really feel that we're rushing it, and that we really need to just make sure we've got everything going on in this building that needs to be going on. And I've got huge concerns over it.
I'm just, if you don't mind me addressing, I'm confused what the concern is. If somebody chooses to use the venue, they come along, they have a look at it, and they think it's good price and suitable, then that's the people's choice, right?
It is the people's choice, but it's also about the reputation of Dunstable Town Council offering a high end or, you know, a suitable place to be married in. It's about the aesthetics of what it looks like when you arrive in your wedding car on your wedding day. At the minute, you've got peeling mortar outside, you've got scaffolding, you've got paintwork, you've got woodwork that just isn't looked after, and it just looked grubby. It looks grubby.
Okay, I totally understand Councillor Jones' concern. I do think that we can, with the scaffolding there, is it possible that we, by the time we get to this point where we think we're ready to advertise, is it possible to get the scaffolding covered in such a way that it's just not metal that you're looking at, you know? And is there something you can do with it?
You mean with the printed drape?
Yeah, you can advertise on it.
Yeah, Richard. Oh, sorry, Richard. Oh, sorry, I was just going to come on that point because there's some buildings that I've seen, you know, not just in this country but abroad as well, where they've actually taken a picture of the building, or got a picture from a digital picture of it as it was, and they put it on a, you know, on the and put it on the outside, and it looks, you know, yeah, so it looks so good. I mean, that would be, yeah, that would surely be something that would be much better in the interim, at least.
So that was a quick one. I think with the weddings, obviously, don't think the wedding parties will be standing outside the front too long. But obviously, the cars are going to come in. They've got to come into the back of the building. Whether we may, if they still got to walk around the front, then fine. But they're not going to be standing out there for any particular amount of time. I think you said there was also the idea of actually improving the bandstand for the pictures and stuff. So the pictures would then be in a better area of the grounds.
No, so the registrar, sorry, upset. The registrars encouraged us to include the bandstand as well as the council chamber in the whole application, to give potential people that different opportunities to get married in outdoor or indoor spaces. They thought it was something that would be attractive to and people would be interested.
Yeah, so they're called printed drapes, and they're used for things like the Olympics and World Championships. This is something officers could look into and into decorations for the bandstand area to make it look more like. So I see what you're saying. Use your space, get some props. They're not cheap. They can be very effective at the upper end of their.
In this case of balancing cost and
benefit, absolutely. So. But this is quite right. At the moment, it's a poor offering.
So I think, just to note, members, we are very aware of the situation with the front of the building. Yeah. We are working hard now with people around a bit. So we met with a fresh plans that's on today. First time I've met face to face, and we were supposed to meet with another consultant, but he had an emergency, wasn't there. But we are very actively trying to get to the point where we're putting the planning consent in, which we hope won't take too much longer. Now we're taking the measures we're taking. In reality, getting the front of the building the way we actually want it is not going to be quick. So we can price up scaffolding mesh, but if it's adding significantly to the cost, then that's a really difficult choice, because we don't right now have the money to do everything we need to do to this building. So we've got to make some choices about actually solving the problem we found there. And for the whole front of the building, the decision is going to be, do we decorate it when I say cheaply, I'm still talking tens of thousands, but do we decorate it knowing that we're going to have to come back to it in 2 or 3 years, take the render off and do a much better job again? Or do we do it a bit more piecemeal? So those are decisions we're going to have to make in a month or two once we've got actual quotes and more clarity about the work that needs to be done. So I'm not going to pretend to you that we're going to have it in the way you would really want it. So we will do what we can to make the front tidy, and just from where we are, we may be at the point where we have to advertise it and say, here's an amazing inside building, come and see it, and see if we can at least get some weddings under our belt, get some experience about it. It's going to take some time to get up and running anyway. So if we could get a few weddings in, work them through, see what works, get an idea for the actual market and people's taste for it, and develop it as we go. That really is the best that we can do from the situation we're in. We are as keen as you to get this building completed and looking good from the front. When you drive in every day and you see the building looking the way it is, it doesn't look like you want Dunstable Town Council to look like by a long distance. We absolutely share that aspiration.
I was just going to say on that point, because I think I did suggest some time ago about having the feasibility of a marquee or something at the Priory House when we had the weddings there, that we could offering marquees outside to be able to offer a reception area, and we could offer a bit more better package and an offering in that respect. Is that something that we could do here as well? If we've got with the bandstand, what I'm saying is, if you can offer a package like that you've got an offering that you can actually have a private hire out there with a marquee, and you could hire that and obviously sell that on a cost, then we could use that as a wedding venues and things that you've got the potential there to have a reception there as well, which may be a much better offering to some people.
It's something we can investigate. I know we've had conversations about Prairie Gardens. I can't recall.
Yeah, I think the main difficulty you have is that it's in a public open space, and that you would have to secure that marquee, because obviously it would go into the evening, security, fencing,
they'd obviously need to do that,
toilets, like the whole, it would be quite a big cost. But it is certainly something that we could try and cost out to see if it's.
Yeah, certainly people do have these marquees. And when they're done up inside with proper royals and things like that, look like a really classy venue. So it may be an offering to, we've got options. But something
usually that's on private land, then, which is easier to control, as you say. You haven't got the problem with public walking past.
And again, if we've got the bandstand that's available, then that's going to have to be the same sort of situation. You're going to have to make it a private area with.
I think it's similar to with the bandstand. I think the registrars were thinking similarly to the way that they started to do outdoor weddings in Priory Gardens prior to Priory House closing. That just for that 20-minute ceremony, because that's all it is usually, no more than half an hour anyway, that they just staff it accordingly so that they kind of shut off the nearest path, and that they obviously have the kneel outs around that area. We don't have that in Grove House Gardens, but that's how they managed it. They just staffed it. You just and you only allow the capacity that you can move indoors if obviously weather dependent. You can't have 2 bookings.
I'm just thinking it's a revenue stream, and you've got the bar facilities, you've got everything that goes with it, and that can be quite a revenue stream.
Councillor Kenson, Gurney?
No, what's that?
You said that's okay.
Just, I think for me, it's already you're giving people that option, as Councillor has said. You just advertise and let's see how it goes. The people who will take the building, the inside of the building, because that's what is important to them.
We'll go to the point, and I'll make one final comment before this. Obviously, we're looking to agree the release of approximately £3,000 from forecasted revenue underspend in corporate services. So if we buy these chairs, we can still use this room as a meeting room, I assume, but for other meetings. So we're not, if we buy the chairs, we're not going to be out of pocket because weddings turn up. We can use it for other meetings.
And we're going to advertise that as well. We've got a couple of bookings now. And obviously Tea Time Towers are being held in at the moment. At the moment, we're only using Priory House's chairs because we don't have chairs in that room. There's only 20 of those, and they're not really fit for purpose. You can't fit much more around them. So the chairs that we would source would obviously be fit for purpose. They would fit the capacity of the room.
Okay, can I put this to vote then, that we accept the approval for release of money to by the chairs? Yeah. Well, are there any other questions on the other parts of the reports? No. So as duly noted that revenue budget position and year-end forecast for current financial year to 31st of August. Noted the council's earmarked reserves as at 31st of August 2025, and we've noted the current investments, and we noted the current direct debits as at August 2025.
We just make sure we voted to note those.
Okay, we don't vote those. Okay, so they're all being put to the vote for that option of points 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Do I have your agreement? Now we move on to the corporate plan update and activity.
This one is much shorter. So this report is to update members on progress of the corporate plan, objectives and action, and the key performance indicators, both associated with this committee and the rest of the other committees as well. So the corporate plan contains 50 objectives. 10 of these are assigned to this committee. Of those 10, 9 have been completed or successfully progressed. 1 has not yet been achieved. Details are in the appendix. Overall, of the 50 objectives set for the council, 35 are either complete or on track to be completed. 5 are delayed and 9 are not started. 1 is not possible. Available in the appendix. Moving on to the performance indicators. So of the 50 performance indicators from the corporate plan 24 to 27, 21 of these have been assigned to this committee. Those 8 have been successfully met or exceeded. 6 are not being met, and 7 performance indicators do not have enough data to report. Of the 50 performance indicators in the corporate plan, 32 have achieved their target or improved on last year's performance. 4 are slightly below target, and 5 are below. 9 were unable to be reported on. So in conclusion, officers have made or completed or made good progress on most of the objectives to date that require action. Some objectives are part of service plans for 25-26 or 26-27, and progress will be included in future reports. There are new performance indicators which have now been reported on for the first time, so we'll be able to have a better understanding next year based on that information. And some of the indicators that did not have enough data this year, we've made some changes to how we will report on those, so data should be available next year or in the future.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on any of those reports or data? All okay with those? Okay, thank you very much for that report. Just an update, so there's no vote on that. Next one is marketing and communications report from Rachel.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, members. We continue to use posts and stories on social media to encourage visibility and broaden our reach on social media and encourage participation for people to come to our events and activities. That seems to be proven really well. Our Facebook on Dudley Town Council has reached its milestone of over 14,000. We're closely reaching our next milestone of 15,000. As of today, we need about 60 more followers to reach that. And on Instagram, we're about 20 more followers to reach about 1,000 as well. So I'm really pleased with that. The report highlights some snapshots of the top 3 social media posts, mainly featuring our star town centre manager, who we've kind of used as the face of the town council, try and engage the public. And she's had really lovely feedback as well, saying, "Oh, you're Facebook lady," and stuff like that. And hearing it, like, feed that back and stuff has been really, really lovely. And people go, "Oh, we hear that voice, we know that voice." So people are really recognising her as like this kind of like the face, which is really lovely to hear. If we just move on to the website, the new website's officially launched in August. To support this, we've done press releases and social media. It's now more inclusive and user-friendly and easier to navigate as well. We've got our dedicated What's On calendar that features all our events. We've also got the Recite Me tool that's integrated as the accessibility tool, which allows customers to customise their browsing experience, such as text-to-speech and translation in different languages. So it really reaches the demographic in Dunstable. So that's been a really good success. And here in the report, you can see some of the stats that the Recite Me Accessibility company has provided for us every month. If we go on to talk the town, it's now in the design phase, and Grove Theatre is advertising their Christmas panto, and the delivery will be from the 24th of October. Community lottery, so we're actively engaging the public to play, and also still encouraging good causes to join the community lottery as well. I'm currently in the middle of putting together a video of some of like the community groups that will like be a montage of saying why they've joined and how good it is to be a part of the community lottery and what the money will raise will go towards. Where am I? We also approached BBC Three Counties to get some regional coverage, because obviously it's Herts, Begs and Bucks, and they've also got their community lotteries as well. But at the moment, there's been no interest to cover the community lottery, which is a shame. And if we just go on to councillor surgeries, offers are planning effective communication around councillor surgeries, such as doing our social media posts and videos with councillors as well. And we've done a short survey to get feedback from the public to gauge their interests as well in councillor surgery, of like when they would like it, what days they would like it. And as you can see in the report, it was Wednesdays, Saturdays and Sundays, and afternoons and evenings, and they would like them monthly. And whereabouts, it sounds like community centre and markets and events, closely followed by, I think it was Teams. And I think I hand over to Lisa on this one.
Yes, members, just to add on to that, we've just included a very draft suggested schedule for the next sort of 18 months of public meetings or surgeries that you may wish to hold. I've alternated between market stalls and the different wards, based it on the ward, the ward venues are just based on what you've had previously. You can decide whether they worked or not. But the market stalls, I've checked with the kind of calendar of events and different public holidays, etc., to hopefully gauge the best sort of footfall. So just down to members really, what if that looks about what you would expect and what you're happy with. Obviously we can revisit the venues. I haven't contacted any of them yet. I wanted to gauge people's interest and suggestions going forward. I'll hand over to the chair. I think we discussed this briefly earlier.
I'll come to you, Councillor Jones. There was one point on the list which is basically trying to definitely get the agreement for November.
October and November.
I'm using back now. I've got the dates left. So yeah, we're looking at the Saturday the 18th in the square and Thursday the 20th of November, Bennett's Community Hub or the Cemetery. Has anyone got any objections to those two taking place on that date? Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. I will just say that I will attempt to attend the Central Ward 1 on the evening, but I do work. So, and I'll get back to Dunstable at 6:30 on a good day. So, I'll do what I can.
Okay, well, it's still open to adjustment, I think, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slightly later time. Right, councillor Jones is saying.
I don't want to be negative. I don't think we should travel around the town anymore. I think we should pick one venue. This is where our council and surgeries are, or one venue in the town centre inside and then the market. Residents do not see where and what we're doing until a few days before. If they know that every council surgery is going to happen on this Saturday or this Wednesday or this Thursday of every month at this venue, they're more likely to remember it than they are to keep looking, well, where are we going to go this time, that time. It's less hassle for the officers as well in arranging it and booking it. And I just think we should stick to one venue. You can still have the ward councillors responsible for organising the one in October and Central Ward in November, whatever. They can still be the lead ones wherever the venue is. But I just think we should stick to one venue and try to stick to the same time and day.
Okay, councillor Neil.
For me personally, because obviously I'm on North Ward, during the weeks it's just not good for me. It's weekends really. I would opt for me personally. Obviously I don't know what other North Ward councillors thoughts on that, but for me personally, weekends are the better option.
Be noted. Yeah.
Just a question, in the last meetings, I mean, how many people have attended? Because like mine, I can say we were more councillors than the people who came to see us. And even the people who came to see us, it was more of something to do with the Facebook, the differences around Facebook. It wasn't something to do with the ward or anything that they wanted. It was, we had to direct them to make contact with ward.
Yeah.
Are we spending our, time? Are people making use of
making good use?
Yeah.
Councillor Edwin.
Yeah, just picking up something that Councillor Jones just mentioned is that, I do agree with that sort of approach, but the main thing I think really is to attach it to where we've got footfall. So it makes more sense when you've got a market on, then you're definitely going to get that footfall, because let's face it, the attendance, all of them, when we've dotted them around, has been, if you get 10 or 12, you're lucky. It's 6 and 7. So we've got to look at the feasibility of whether that's actually worthwhile and how we can make that better. Now, if you've got footfall coming to the market, I'm pretty sure you'd end up with those sort of figures for the entirety put together in an hour. So whether it's an event or tagged onto an event or a market or something, where you're going to get that footfall, then people are already there, they're going to much more likely to be, but I don't think they're going to purposely come to something to air something. I think, you need to attach it to an event or a market or something like that.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's been a lot of interesting comments. The only thing I would just say is that I would be interested to see if we get more success if we vary the times that we do. I mean, having just said that it would be challenging for me to make it, I do think it's a good idea to try it, because it may be that we reach different parts of the public and different people are, Saturday morning, most people are probably sleeping in, and a lot of our surgeries tend to be then. So I'm open to that.
Councillor Crawley.
Thank you, Chair. So what Mayor Commando said a moment ago about whether or not it's worthwhile, I would consider the fact that we discussed this originally, these surgeries at the beginning of this new council, or this council, and we said that we were going to trial it and see how it's going. I would argue, on the few that I've attended, admittedly, that it's not going very well, and we're possibly wasting time to do it when we could be encouraging people to attend these meetings. These are at a later time. Most people could attend if they wanted to. And we're all here, or there's lots more of us here that people could put questions to the council directly. A lot of people that I've spoken to that turn up to these events on the, again, rare occasion that I do turn up to these surgeries, they want to speak on something that's central beds related or national government related, and it's very rarely they want to talk about the flower beds, the cemeteries, the the wonderful events we hold. It's usually other things. So I don't know whether they're actually that valuable to keep like pushing and chasing.
Councillor John Gurney.
I'd agree with what Councillor Crawley's just said. I mean, you know, I've been to a couple of these meetings and we've had more councillors than members of the public turn up. I did notice with the schedule that's been planned, there's only one for the East Ward. And that's like, it's either going to be Priory Church Hall or Catherine Drive, or what used to be called St Catherine's. And there's a big difference there. You're asking people, which is what we call East Dunstable, and you've got up here, which is you've got people from Priory area. So there's two really distinct areas, and you've really got that in quite a few wards. Apart from Central, you've got quite a spread of people. So I think if they're going to continue, I think they should keep going around all over the place. And I think it's a good idea to have varied times and days to give people the opportunity to do this. But from what I've seen so far, hardly anyone turns up. And if they do, it's just they're just walking past and they saw the door was open. And Richard, Councillor Atwell, did one. It was the 3 people turned up, and it just because we were there, they were just walking past. No one actually said, "I saw this being advertised, and I thought I'd pop down today."
And Councillor Jones. Sorry.
I'm just going to put a suggestion out there. Rather than do them monthly, why don't we do them quarterly in the town centre, at the markets, linked to one of our markets? We do the one in October, then wait until the markets recommence in March time. Maybe do one in the middle of that inside somewhere, but let's do them quarterly. If we're doing them at the market, we'll be there from 10 till 3:30. We don't all need to turn up at once. As long as there's 2 of us at each for every couple of hours, you spread out. Your visibility as councillors is going to be a lot more if you do that market for the whole day, and you will get more traction and you'll have bigger conversation. And yeah, a lot of the questions may well be linked to central beds. They always will be. But you're in the town centre and it's about visibility as well for you as councillors.
My own opinion as well is that certainly numbers of these meetings are quite low. I think on Friday we had 3, top of my head. Again, it's CBC related with pavements and roads. So it's that's this suggestion is quite good, I think. Councillor Holly.
Thank you. I remember holding surgeries in the Quadrant Centre, and that was a place where people did come along and say hello and express their views.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, that's fine. Thanks, Chair. I actually did remember, possibly was one of the only one that said this was not a good idea, but we said, let's try it. Because the reality is what everybody's just said. People, if there is a real issue that our residents are concerned about, trust me, they will find. I think we need to preserve our time, our energy, and we need to be focused on one particular. And I do agree. I do think the market on the market day, that's what the town council is doing. We've put that market on. The day you have councillors for the town council actually there on those days, I think it's more sensible. I think it's more worthy of our time. Our residents do have every single one of our details. The website is there, it's very clear. If you need a councillor for the East Ward, whatever ward you're in, the information is right there for them to contact us. You know, and the argument was how much I would, because you know, my thing was how much are you spending on this things? I understand that it doesn't cost much to hire this all, but your time, especially if people you know, the resident doesn't turn up to this event or it's not being advertised properly to galvanize people. But if there's real issue that the town is facing, we couldn't get the people out. But at the moment, we just don't have that pressing conversation. So allow the resident to contact us directly. They are the market once every 3 months. I think this is the right thing to do. And I think we need to discontinue this format that we currently have. So I would happily put a proposal to this council to change the format that we currently have.
Don't forget, we'll have bigger footfall in the market very soon.
Yeah.
Very soon with
Yeah.
always opening.
I can see the,
Massive
I can understand the concept. It just makes sense. It's whether we want to put that proposal now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just make one additional suggestion, just put on Councillor Crawley's comment that actually you can invite members of the public to these meetings and promote these a bit more. What some councils would do is have an informal opportunity to meet a councillor, say 6:30 before a meeting. So you could advertise to the public if you want to talk to a town councillor. Informally, and that way we could make sure that 3 or 4 of you are available at 6:30 before a meeting. Even those not on plans could then go and sit through there. And we could try that for 2 or 3 meetings, just anybody take that as an opportunity, which is less effort for you because you're coming anyway. Worst case scenario, you sit here and have a cup of coffee and chat to an officer or chat to each other.
I think like Councillor Tamara said as well, that people seek us out when they've got problems anyway. So if there's a burning issue, they'll track us down either via email or the church coffee mornings, etc. So it's more a case of trying to grab the people who are not necessarily that involved with the council, are looking out for council meetings, but see an opportunity when they're at the markets, as you say. And with the markets, obviously, they are held on Fridays as well at times, so it could be other nights.
Sunday and Christmas.
Saturdays.
So vote on. So I think Councillor Jones proposed that we have
quarterly meeting, market days
on market days, but we don't go ahead with any of the other ones.
No.
Yes.
Stop that. Would you like to second that one?
Yes, I would love to. We can propose and I'll second. Okay, so that's the proposal that would discontinue what we currently do as in ward-to-ward meeting, but focus on a quarterly meeting at the market. And I second the motion.
I'll put that to who's in favour of that provision. Who's against? And then abstentions.
Would members like us to have a couple of goes at advertising, see members obviously for a meeting, but just trying to raise that meeting.
Prior to meetings, yeah.
Can I just clarify, would members like to start from October and then continue in March and then we'll programme in there?
Can I make a request that we have a new banner and a new pop-up sale? Yes, thank you.
Definitely.
One
that's an outside type one that's going to stand a bit of wind because it's got destroyed in 5 minutes.
The pop-up banner, if we pop up, we'll need to put some bungee cables around the.
But it needs to be an outdoor type one rather than in.
You'll need to then attach it still to the gazebo.
Thank you, Rachel, for that report. There was no other questions for Rachel on this.
You guys list
report. The figures are very good, so it's promising. There's getting more and more, and it certainly pops up on my Facebook.
Sorry, actually, I just wanted to ask quickly. The new website, fantastic, and we like it, and it's great, and it's great. That way it looks and it's clean, it's sharp and everything else. Just wonder what feedback was from other people or from general public. Have you not had any comments or?
From the general public, we did ask for feedback from the general public, but we obviously more focused on like the press releases, more around like the accessibility and how like the colours and like the recycling tool and like being really like accessible but no feedback from public, but everyone internally is obviously yourselves have said how more easy it is to find things and navigation. So
okay, thank you.
One question.
Oops, yes. So I've got one more.
Just one question for you. I was just thinking really about the community lottery scheme that we currently have. Can you, in terms of the success of it, can you any indication of what you feel the success is currently?
I think we have like 32 local good causes registered. And I think it's going quite well for a few of the good causes. They've raised like a couple of hundred for their causes. So I say it's quite successful, to be honest. And it's just that like people just playing the lottery that obviously makes the difference. So I have put a montage or video together of a few different local good causes that I'm putting together at the moment, where you say like what they're doing with the money, why they've joined and stuff. So that's going to go out on social very soon.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, we've exceeded the targets we set ourselves. So working with the contractor, we set targets. So we've not massively, but that means that it's viable to carry on as adding value to the organisations.
That's
And in the end, as long as organisations carry on being involved, it's worth it to them. So if it's worth it to them, then it's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, over to you for the referral report from Personnel Subcommittee.
Thank you, Chair. So we've got 3 references up from personnel that we all talked about in the personnel. The first is the VIV up. So we have a number of benefits schemes for staff. One of which is the VIV up scheme, whereby staff can buy home and electronic equipment. So if your dishwasher breaks and you need a new one, and you're in difficult circumstances, you can buy one. You're not credit checked. It's kind of bought through the council, but you pay it back over a period. Doesn't cost the council anything. It's possible to convert that into a scheme where it's effectively a salary sacrifice scheme, which is slightly better deal for those. We can do it with a slightly better deal for the council as well, very modestly. So the recommendation is that we do that. The 2 policy recommendations. The first is the vexatious complaints policy. So we haven't had one of these. It's common for a council to have one. It just ensures that if we get to the point where we have a vexatious complaint, which is quite a high bar, we've got a policy for how we deal with that. So we're not just letting something go on that's causing staff hours and hours of time, but neither are we just saying to someone, go away, we're not dealing with anymore. It's a way of managing that, gatekeeping it, making sure that we don't lose the contact. We acknowledge that just because that's a vexatious complaint, it doesn't mean that complaining about something else is also vexatious. Don't have to deal with that. So it just gives us a policy and a process that's transparent about how we deal with vexatious complaints. And the portable electrical appliance safety policy, which again we've been recommended to have, just to make sure we've got a clear policy about how we use electronic devices, how we're plugging them in, what staff are allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. We have got a very good Pat tester. Who's found a little while ago. We bought some chargers from Amazon, and as soon as the Pat tester came in, we had to put them in a bin and buy some that were more acceptable. And one of our contractors we found had got some equipment which wasn't acceptable, and now they've changed their equipment with a number of other councils as well, because our Pat tester that found it. So this isn't saying that we're not saving what we do, it's just saying we need a really clear policy in terms of what staff can and can't do.
Okay, any questions? Right, yes, Councillor Crawley.
I think these are all very reasonable. I think if the VIV up, if that saves, well, even if it's modestly saving money and it's better for staff, that's great. Let's move towards that. The other 2 are just common sense, really. I think I don't see any issue with them. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Jones.
Just on the Pat testing, I think I mentioned it at the meeting itself. There's reference to frequent, regularly. Did we not say that we were going to put in there the annual testing, the word annual testing, the Pat testing? I can't see it. It's still mentioning Pat tested regularly, periodic testing. There's different terminology being used, regular Pat testing, annual inspection of all portable. So it's in there once, but then it talks about regular. So we've got a mishmash of frequencies in there still.
Yeah, it should be annual.
Yeah.
Definitely can. Okay, Councillor Atwell.
Yeah, I'm happy with all these. Just one comment I'll say about the vexatious complaints policy. When we're talking about from residents and things like that, I'll take it from people. I completely understand why we need to have that, but how we actually manage that and the thresholds and the bars reached and how we manage that is going to be critical to making sure we maintain the confidence from residents that they can make a complaint, and it won't just be, this won't just be used as the hammer blow to resolve everything. So as long as we've got that process in place and the framework's there for it, then I think this is great, but we do need to make sure it's managed properly.
Okay, any other comments? No, okay, in which case, we need to approve the following recommendations made by the members at the meeting of the subcommittee. So can I have your approval for the live up? All those in favour? Okay. So, then the adoption of the vexatious complaints policy. Yep. And then the adoption of the Portsmouth electrical appliance safety subject to it being annual the document. Okay. Everyone. Okay, Kelly, I think I want you to stop the recording, please. And then the officers may leave. Thank you for your time tonight and your thought. Yeah.